Hey there, YouTubers, right? So in this video, going to update the BIOS for the Gigabyte B660M DS3H motherboard. Now there's two versions of this. One is the regular version, the other is the Wi-Fi, right? So I'm doing the regular version, the non-Wi-Fi version. If you happen to be watching this and you have the AX version, which is the Wi-Fi version, um, you could actually follow along with this. Obviously, you want to make sure that you get the right BIOS right. So let's go ahead and switch over to a Windows only view. Now in here, a couple things before we get going. We want to find out what our BIOS version is. So up here, type in SYS, and that brings up system information. Click on that. You see right on this line, BIOS version date F2. Alright. Now we're going to go pull up our BIOS, and you want to type in this information here. Alright. Now if you are following along doing the Wi-Fi version, you would add an AX to that, and that would give you a different link. Okay, so I'm going to back up. Just be careful, folks. If you have the non-Wi-Fi, you want this one. If you have the Wi-Fi, you want the one with the AX. All right. So I'm going to click on that, and then let's see. Do this a little different. So expand this. Now, two places you'll see support on here usually. There's this one and then this one. You want this one? If it'll open up. There we go. A little delay. So a couple things, folks, while we're in here. Before we grab the BIOS, if you're looking at this for future 13th gen, this is where you're going to go to find out what BIOS you need. Okay, so right now this thing's compatible with all 12th gen, and you see F2 BIOS works great for those, right? However, if you upgraded i9 12900KS, you need at least F6 alpha. All right. Now when 13th gen comes around, let's take a look at that. And to do that, click on downloads, go over here to BIOS, and there are only 3 in here. So this was the first launch release that we have. This fixed some non-KCPU performance issues. So, and then the last one right here. Okay. So you see that this supposedly will be good for 13th gen Intel. So that is a nice thing there. So we want to download this. And I'm using probably the world's slowest Wi-Fi adapter. Sadly, I have 9 computers or something like that, maybe 10 computers in here that are all hooked up to Ethernet, but the one I bring in to work on doesn't have built-in Wi-Fi, so I put a USB Wi-Fi in it, and it's just a dog. So, with that said, let us talk about a few things while this downloads. All right, there's important things, folks, to look at. We'll change this view up. You know, before you do the BIOS update, you want to make sure the weather's good, all right? So take a look outside. You know, for me, it looks like a nice day out there, okay? May rain later. Now, you want to obviously be worried about thunder and lightning, windstorms, hurricanes. Yeah, some of you guys got hurricanes to look forward to, tropical storms, things like that. Bad idea to do a BIOS update in the middle of those. If you have a UPS, you may want to put that in. That's an uninterruptible power supply, okay? Or some kind of battery backup. that, you know, could save you in the event you lose power, right? So what happens if you lose power during a BIOS update? You will most likely brick your motherboard and it would be useless. Now, if you're outside of the warranty, you're probably SOL, right? If you're inside the warranty, hopefully they will take it back and give you a new one. But I don't know that for a fact. So it's always good to be safe, all right? Now, the thumb drive we're going to use, let's switch back to this other view. Assuming it reads it. There we go. So for a thumb drive, I seem to always have good results with the formatting of NTFS, okay? That's what I use in all my videos. And so we have good results, and that's what I'm going to stick with, all right? Just in case you had that question. Now we're still waiting for this thing to download. This video, for the most part, you know, is, well, it's going to be unedited from beginning to end. Possibly this is how long it will take for you to do your BIOS update. Obviously, if you have this direct wired and Ethernet, this thing would have already downloaded. Right now we're about 2 minutes left to go, so there are other things to talk about. When you do a BIOS update, okay, let's say you have overclocked RAM, all right, which I believe I have in this motherboard. Let's see, I might not have it overclocked right now, but this is one thing you want to check. So if you bought some 3200 megahertz RAM and it is running at 2133 like this, okay, then you have not overclocked it, right? So why do I bring this up? By the end of this video, after you do the BIOS update, it's going to reset your XMP. That means you're going to have to go back and change the overclock or put the overclock back on, all right? Another thing that could happen, folks, if you have multiple hard drives, let's see, we have one plus a USB here. If you have multiple hard drives, you may find that your boot priority gets changed, okay? So I may not mention it when we get into the BIOS, but keep an eye on which drive is your actual boot drive, okay? So if you have 3 1 terabyte drives in here, make sure you understand which one is the actual one that's got your OS on. It can be kind of painful if it just randomly picks a different one, or suddenly it doesn't want to boot because it's picked a different drive that doesn't have a OS on it, right? So knowing how to fix that is kind of important. Those are you know, really the main issues that are going to pop up. The worst one, obviously, we already talked about, if your motherboard gets bricked, right? So hopefully that won't happen. All right, the file is ready. And so we are going to, so this should be a zip file. There we go. And now I'm going to take this, so you can barely see that this is zipped, but it does say compressed right there. I'm going to copy this over, folks, to our drive, drop it in here. Now, if you happen to have other folders in here that might confuse you, like here's another motherboard folder. Let's get that out of there. All right. And a lot of times, folks, it's good to have a brand new, fresh drive, nothing on it. Make sure it works good. And then don't buy the cheap Chinese junk ones, right? All right. So what we're going to do now is reboot the computer into the BIOS. And to do that, we'll be clicking on F2. And hopefully this will work, folks. Sometimes I'm using the Pile video capture card, just in case you're wondering, hey, how's this guy able to capture the BIOS and all this other stuff? So using multiple computers to get this done. Okay, So if we go, we got to change views. I'm blocking you guys. If we go back to easy mode, you see this right here. Here's your XMP. All right. Boom on. Boom. You got to hit it twice to get it back to disabled. I'm not going to mess with that right now. But that's where you'll need to go there. Boot priority here. You know, keep an eye on this. Like for me, if I had multiple drives in here, I would want to know, okay, Western Digital 500. And just, you know, maybe even take a picture with your camera. All right. Getting back to what we're working on here. BIOS update. You're going to go here to QFlash. Update BIOS. And then this is where I was saying, like, if you have a bunch of folders in here and other crap, you might get confused, right? But in this case, here is our file, our folder, excuse me. And here is, you see that F6. Also, check this out up here, F2, all right? Click on that, click over here. Are you sure you want to update the BIOS? And yes, I am. So usually before I do that, folks, I let you guys know, hey, check the weather one more time. Make sure everything is hunky-dory. Now, sometimes, depending on the BIOS, this actually just runs on its own. And here we go. So now I'm going to step away from the computer. And there we go. Momentary bit of black there, and now the BIOS is updating. All right, so one thing we didn't talk about, looking at the BIOS files, grab the newest one, all right? So F6 was the newest. You don't have to do all the other BIOSes that were in there. So now, there are times that that's not a true statement. Recently, I haven't seen any motherboards like this, but you may find by reading a description that it might say, hey, update this BIOS before you do the newest, okay? In this case, it didn't. Very important, folks, that you always read those descriptions. So start at the very bottom, see what got added. You're also reading that to see, hey, is this worth even doing, right? It was obviously discussed in this video that, you know, bad things can happen by updating a BIOS. So if you don't necessarily really need it, don't update it. All right. What are those BIOS updates going to do for you that was not discussed in there? I guess I should switch back over to this view so you guys can see me, right? So you've got obviously CPU, right? That's hardware. You may have additional solid state drives, additional RAM. RAM compatibility, security things that get fixed. There are a whole host of reasons for why BIOS updates might be a good thing. You saw in there, you know, performance issues, right? So one of the examples was a non-K performance issue that was fixed. If you are having problems with the certain setup and you read through there, you may find, you know, by having an old BIOS that new BIOS might make things run better. I'm not sure they did this, but there may have been some updates when previous generations went from Windows 10 to Windows 11. That may be another thing one day with this motherboard. All right, so we are still sitting here waiting for the BIOS. And usually these videos take anywhere from 9 to 15 minutes. If there's a lot of BIOSes out there, that I believe is really what the holdup can be at this stage. And now over to the left, also you'll notice it shows the current BIOS and then the updated BIOS. So you got F2 on top and F6 underneath it. And we're almost done, folks. Just going to reboot. And hey, if this video helped you out, please make sure you like, maybe even leave a nice comment. If your motherboard gets bricked, there's really not much I can do for you. Probably won't even hear a response from me. But that's one of those things where you got to deal with the manufacturer or the place you bought it. So let's see if it boots back into Windows. Hopefully it does. And like I said, if you end up in the BIOS after the reboot, then a good chance that it did not, you're having a boot priority problem. And don't forget about the RAM. There's just one of my business emails there. Alright, so Wi-Fi snapped back up, so we look like we're good. Let us go in here and once more time, system information. And there's that F6, August 8th. So everything's good there. Hey, if you guys get this annoying message here, let me just go ahead and show you how to get rid of it, because I'm tired of it on here, if I can find it. Plus, we might as well go back into the BIOS one last time. Now you're hitting delete here, folks. Alright, so like I said, this is where you will you can change your RAM to overclock it. Now if it doesn't run at that speed, folks, you're going to go in here and change this. So mine automatically realizes 4,000 is the best it's going to do, okay? But you would click on it, hit enter, and then change the speed. Sometimes you can go faster. You know, maybe I could run it at 4,200, 4,100. You know, maybe it's 4133 and it's not stable, and you have to start clicking lower and lower speeds till you find one that works. All right. So we talked about that. We got the boot thing here. And then the only other thing I was going to try and do, if I can remember where it's at, is that, if I can find it. And the reason I'm going in here now is because I'm thinking about it. I want to get rid of, the startup menu for those guys. Here it is right here. That was actually a lucky guess. So click on that again, bring up disabled. If you don't want it, right? If you want it, keep it there and you'll get that annoying message every time you reboot. Thanks for checking that video, folks. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you. And oh yeah, don't forget to save and exit. All right.